Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. I know I have hyped movies to head back to the movies for before. I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong, The Suicide Squad, there's been a few that I'm like, yo, this is the movie that should make you go back out to the theater. But it has been a very long time since I've seen a movie that got me so excited I needed to get in front of a camera as quick as I possibly could. And I had to travel out a little bit to go see this one because it wasn't playing close to me in IMAX yet. I think that'll probably happen over the weekend. But for my first go, to get to the first IMAX screen, I had to travel a little bit. Traffic took me a little while to get back, but I have been nothing but hyped since this movie ended. And there's no amount of words that can express how excited I am to talk about this and how excited I am for Simu Liu. He is a bona fide superstar, and he is bringing a bona fide superhero into the MCU's Phase 4 that I think we might see a lot of. And let me tell you, man, the Asian community, I hope you guys get excited and as psyched for this movie and this franchise and this hero as we saw the black community get for Black Panther, because damn, man, does this thing hit on so many levels. What am I talking about? You somehow don't know. Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat, we're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And I probably still am not saying the name right. I know I got the Shang. There's a section in the movie where they go through the name. I think I'm close, so I'm going to just stick with Shang-Chi, and hopefully that's close enough. But after hearing that combo in the movie, I was like, shoot, have I been saying it wrong? So I apologize if we are, but holy cow, man, this thing, it just felt special from jump. Let me tell you, this, is what I was hoping we were going to get with, Black Widow. I mean, not this specifically, but, the type of action and the phenomenal choreography and just, a movie that gets you pumped for whatever is coming next. And the tough thing with Black Widow was it was a story in the past. And while it sets up, a Black Widow universe and things that certainly can come in Phase 4, it didn't feel like a movie that was really kicking Phase 4 off. Well, that's what this movie is, man. This thing kicks it off in a big, bad way, and it brings a superhero to the screen that might be unfamiliar to a lot of people. It's certainly familiar to a large group of people, and is one that I think should be celebrated. And the way in which they handle this movie, I mean, we've seen Black Panther. You know Kevin Feige was not gonna bungle this. And just the respect to Asian and specifically Chinese culture, and just the way that it uses, the culture, but even just the cinema. I mean, the different styles of Asian cinema and martial arts and action that we get in the movie. This thing just, if you've never embraced Asian culture or cinema, although if you have, this movie gonna hit big time for you. But if you haven't, this movie really kind of introduces you to a really large breadth of it. And somehow, with all the mixing of styles and different things going on in this movie, it all weaves together perfectly, man. This thing was stellar. And Destin Daniel Cretton deserves a ton of credit for that. And I will not lie, the only thing I've ever seen him do was Just Mercy, which featured Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx. Really dug that movie, but small, local. Now, granted, there are elements of that film, when you're not doing the big action stuff that you can see, that he applies here. And certainly when you're talking about community and family and what that means and how you kind of go through those waters, he just crafts it wonderfully. But talk about a level up, man. That movie is small. This movie is massive. This has got to be over $100 million budget. And he nailed it, man. Absolutely nailed it. Now, don't get yourselves completely fooled. He had an amazing second with him because his cinematographer here is Bill Pope, who is responsible for The Matrix. So that's a guy who knows how to do action. And I love when you see a filmmaker who hasn't really ever done anything this big bring in people around him on his team that have done stuff like this. And Bill Pope really lets Cretton's vision come to life, man, and the way he shoots the action and just gives it room to breathe. I mean, you've seen The Matrix. Like, this dude is a grade A quality cinematographer for action, and it is all shot wonderfully. The whole movie is shot wonderfully. But Cretton's vision just really works, man. The way he stages the action, his choreography team, like, big time props. But even away from the action, let's just say this. It's like nothing you've seen in the cinematic universe, because we've never dove into martial arts, and they give you a massive amounts of style. I mean, we've seen Michelle Yeoh, like, doing the kind of, like, wind dancing stuff. I know that's the wrong terminology, but, like, you know, the way that she's using that, like, you get a lot of that, like, martial arts type ballet, like, where it almost looks like a performance piece. You get a lot of that in here. You get some really tight hand-to-hand stuff. You get, like, I mean, you get some of that, and we know this was teased too, but you get a little bit of that Crouching Tiger action, and, like, it just all blends and works, and where it pops up and comes in, like, it is just flawless across the board. And from the things that we've seen in the trailers, that bus sequence, that first trailer, I was like, oh man, if this is showing us what this movie could do, yeah, that bus sequence sets the bar. And the movie surpasses it multiple times. But the other thing too, like, the movie doesn't waste any time. We get right into the action. Mild spoiler, but, like, right into the 10 rings. It's like the movie knew. We've been waiting a long time for a Marvel, big time blockbuster action flick. And it gives it to you right up front. And the balance that Cretton has of the action and everything else is really, really almost flawless. And I'll talk about that in a sec. But from those sequences, the bus scene, mind-blowing. And like, it's one of those ones where, like, they got to the end of that and I'm like, I need the behind the scenes, like, yesterday, man. I need to know how that was choreographed, how it was shot, how it was like, it's crazy looking. Same goes for the scaffolding sequence. Like, I thought they were on the side of a building, man. Like, that choreography is so good. It's like, man, if you mess up, you might die. It is wild. I need to see it all. And I mean, the speed of the action is crazy. But those two sequences, the Crouching Tiger stuff that's in there is great. The finale, look, you'll get some haters, you'll get some people that'll be like, oh, the finale turns into a pretty CGI heavy thing, and it does, but it works for the story, and it works for, the things that they're trying to tap into from the culture. And there was a moment where I was almost like a little against the third act, because I was like, Shang-Chi was kind of disappearing a little bit, like, just the way that he was being used. Like, he's there, but the way they were utilizing him was like, oh man, you're kind of. And right as I was thinking that, like, my dude showed up, and I was like, oh no, there it is. And the same thing kind of happened a little bit with the pacing toward the beginning of the third act. You're setting up a lot of world building and story building for the finale. And, like, I was getting to a point where it was like, oh man, I wonder how long this movie is. Like, it feels like it's losing a little bit of steam. And just like the end, right as I thought, that movie picked right back up. And that balance of the action and then the story. I mean, Cretton and his writing team here, Dave Callahan and Andrew Lanham, they do a really phenomenal job of world building and character building. And they accomplish a lot in a very quick amount of time, especially when you mix in all of the action that they have going on, the big third act finale. Like, they accomplished a ton from story, and I loved it, all of it. Like, the Shang-Chi story is fantastic. The Legend of the Ten Rings is phenomenal. The background and the building of the Mandarin was absolutely excellent. The way they handle that whole thing, and him being called the Mandarin and stuff, and just the way that they adapt things from the comics, like, we knew you couldn't bring Fing Fang Foom into this movie, because that plays into the things that were wrong with some of the ways that the comics went back in the early days. But the way they readapt that stuff, the stuff that wouldn't work now, and make it like where you're just like, this is what I need. I want this all the time. Like, the adaptation. While I was not a big Shang-Chi fan growing up, like, I had 2-3 comic books, man, when I went into the shop, and it was Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men, sometimes Superman, sometimes, like the Avengers. So I didn't get into a lot of Shang-Chi, but I'm aware. I mean, when you're a kid and there's a mythical, magical dragon in a comic book, like, you're aware of some of the elements, and the stuff that wouldn't work now, and the way that they adapt it just really elevates it. And while it's changed and it's different, Like, it works for the story they're telling. That's always been my thing with Feige, is the way that they adapt the material and give you things that you're familiar with, but in ways that you haven't seen them. It keeps it fresh, keeps it interesting, gives the MCU their own stories while it's giving you comic stories that you know about. I just thought the way they adapted all that stuff was really, really excellent. And from a screenplay standpoint, like, the story is really rock solid, and like I said, the world building. I mean, this is a world I want to go back to, man. Like, there is a place that they go that we've seen like little bits of in the trailers. I would spend an entire movie there. Now, granted, I don't think you would need to spend an entire movie there, but I want to go back to that place, man. And like, I want to just live in this world more, and especially because the martial arts is so freaking good, man. And yo, shout out to Simu Liu. Like, when I say that this kid is going to become a superstar, like, I mean it, because he showed up. Like, we talk about the action, and, you know, especially when you got someone like Pope shooting it, you're going to get a lot of face time, because the way the action needs to look, you need to see the face of your lead. And while he definitely doesn't do all of it, and there might be some, like, movie magic tricks going on to make it look like he's there sometimes when he's not, there is a ton of Simu Liu doing his own choreography, and we've seen some of his, like, behind the scenes workout stuff and going through that choreography. But he showed up big time, and like I said, it is fast, it's precise, and he hits a lot of it. So huge shouts to him. But before we go into everything with him, the technical elements of the movie are fantastic. The score is great. Now, is it like exactly on the level of like what Ludwig Göransson did with Black Panther? No, but that's because Ludwig is something special. You don't find a lot of Ludwig. But I do have to say that Joel P. West and the way that he blends, you know, the Asian cultural sounds and music and modern stuff and weaves it into a superhero movie, like, it works so well. Like, the score was awesome here. And one of the other things that I really loved when I was saying, like, the clear appreciation and respect to the culture. This movie opens strictly in Chinese. Like, it is all subtitled, for spoilers, for like the first 10 minutes or so. Like, until we get to Simu Liu showing up, you know, in America, it's all Chinese. And there's a lot of that throughout the whole movie. Like, the way they bring it in and use it and not use it in places, like, all of that's perfect. And when you're talking about all the cultural representation and stuff from mythology to martial arts to storytelling to just the way you shoot different types of things from Asian cinema, there is a deep love and a deep respect for all that stuff, and it is displayed wonderfully, and that, you know, falls on Cretton. He absolutely knocks that stuff out of the ballpark, and he brings a cast along with him that is so here to play in that world and so here to look to elevate that material and bring that respect and that quality that you want in a movie that's trying to represent a culture that we haven't seen represented in, you know, the MCU. And we're starting to see more, I think, Asian culture embraced specifically in cinema and foreign film, like, not Americanized. A lot of times when you go into, like, specifically like the mythological stuff behind some Chinese lore, like, Americanized versions of it kind of bungle it, and that doesn't happen here. And that really allows you to have an appreciation for the foreign film elements that exist in the world. And hopefully this will make people want to dive more into Asian cinema and Chinese cinema if they haven't, because there's some really awesome stuff in that world, and I'm a big sucker for all of that, and that stuff plays so well here. But like I said, Cretton brings a cast that is willing to play, and we're going to save this guy for last because he's something special. But Awkwafina, who is already a superstar, if she wasn't before, she 100% is now, and I think she's got potential big, like, ability, like big moment ability, and just big time potential character use in the MCU. I'm super excited for Katy, and what Awkwafina brings to the character, the type of fun that she's able to have, the humor that she brings in. That's the other thing, man. Like, you got all of this dramatic stuff going on and all this action stuff going on, and there is a ton of humor. And Awkwafina, her delivery and her timing, I mean, this is a woman that can do all that stuff. Like, it helps that stuff just kind of flow and meld perfectly. And some of the other humor elements that are in the movie are just wonderful. But she is a huge knockout star, and her chemistry with Liu is absolutely fantastic. Like, I would watch those two do anything on screen. And it's also how I feel about Meng'er Zhang, who plays Xialing like, wow. Like, one, love the character, what she brings to it, the stuff that's going on, the family elements in this movie between Shang-Chi, Xialing, Wenwu, and you know, some of the other elements of their family, their mother Lee, like the way that all ties in, like it's a complicated family situation, and you have like characters that are good and there are characters that are bad, but all of them you kind of are semi-rooting for because you see the family unit for a little bit at times during this movie, and all of that is so important to the film, and it allows the actors to really bring something. And I thought Zhang walked that line in different ways. Like her entrance, totally different than how she is most of the rest of the movie. But what she brings, the chemistry that she has with Liu, it was awesome. And her action sequences, much like that guy, you can tell she's doing a lot of it, and she gets that freaking like rope dagger thing that Scorpion has in Mortal Kombat. Yo, like that's something else. I need to see the behind the scenes on how they do and choreograph and shoot all that stuff, because that was wild. Tony Leung here, who plays Wenwu, better known as the Mandarin, excellent. The way he balances that good and bad, and the way that you can feel for him, and the way the story is just written around that character, and the way that he executes it, really great stuff. And his action sequences, oh man, dude, that's the other thing. Like when you're talking about the adaptation, what they do with the 10 rings in this movie, wow, dude, like wow. And just how they address the 10 rings in general from the MCU standpoint, like brilliant stuff. But I thought Leung really brought some great things for the Mandarin. And again, like I said, how they deal with that in and of itself inside of the movie. I really enjoyed Wenwu, man. Like he knocks it out of the ballpark. I was really impressed with Leung. Fala Chen, who plays Lee, the mother, you get to see her, and you know, Liu and Zhang's youngers. They have a teenage and a younger version of themselves in the movie. They both crush. And you get to see these kind of wonderful moments with the kids, and Fala Chen, who plays their mother Lee, like back when they're younger. Just really, really excellent stuff. And again, that chemistry and that bond, like this felt like a familial unit, and that feeling is very important to how the story plays out the rest of the way. And then you got, you know, Michelle Yeoh is in here. She's fantastic. I don't really want to touch too much on her character, but what she brings to it, and just what I mean, it's Michelle Yeoh. Like, you knew she was going to be phenomenal. Florian Muntenau, who plays Razor Fist, way more fun than I expected him to be. A little bit more of a character. There was more character work for him than I expected there to be. And his action is dope. I mean, he's got a giant razor for a fist. It's awesome. And like, some of the humor in and around that character worked really well. Andy Lee, who plays Death Dealer, cool, man. Like, just cool. He was so cool. And then Simu Liu, I mean, this dude doesn't just knock it out of the ballpark in the action, but the acting, like, is a level up, man. Like, what I know him from, a half-hour Canadian sitcom. He's able to play with the humor, and his chemistry with Awkwafina is brilliant. But he brings emotional heft and weight to this movie, and his performance in those, you know, realms is just fantastic. And not enough good things can be said about what he does with this character, what he does with this performance, and the commitment that he clearly had to the role. It really shines, and he really shines. Like I said, I think we've just witnessed the birth of a superstar, and I think we're going to see a bunch of him as we move forward in the MCU, and that's super exciting. And then the finale of this movie, I don't want to give anything away. There is some CGI elements. We obviously see, you know, the water dragon, you know, who is, you know, the altered Fin Fang Foom. They call him, I can't remember what they name it, but that stuff and the stuff around it, like, really cool. The visuals are not, like, it's crazy how real things can look nowadays. But that finale, like, while there's a lot of CGI going on, it is all freaking dope. It's like a roller coaster ride, and there's some scary stuff in this movie. Like, I'm not gonna say anything, but like, we've recently had some conversations about things that I don't know if you could do in the MCU. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, you can close the door on any of those theories, because whoa, the stuff we get in the third act, like, wild. Like, nothing I've never seen anything like that in the MCU, but I think we might see more of it coming. And it was really, really cool. So for this thing, man, for me, this is just a knockout across the board. So I'm going to stop talking because I've been running my mouth way too long. I freaking love this movie. Like I said, moved right into my uppers, and I want to see this character on screen all the time. So let's get the old C-Maniacs up and give this thing a score, man. I don't think I have much to really say to get to where we're going. I think you know where we're going, but flawless action, great story, great world building, great character building. Cretton just crushes this thing from a directing and writing standpoint. Everything is shot wonderfully. The score kicks. The cast is phenomenal, and Simu Liu is a superstar, man, and he rocks this thing. And when you bring everything else that's at play here with the Asian culture and the blending of different, cinematic styles and story elements, it's a journey, and it's one that's so worth taking, one that should be taken in the movie theater, seen on the biggest screen possible. See this bad boy in IMAX, man, because for the C-Man, 5 out of 5 C-Maniacs. You knew I was going there. I mean, I'm a sucker for Marvel movies and superhero movies in general, but like this thing hit like better than I thought it was going to hit, and I had pretty high hopes, and it certainly surpassed them. So this thing for me was flawless. Like, this is how you do it. I know that there have been issues with other things. Specifically, I know there was some issues with Mulan, but this. And Raya, like on the animated side, like that's how you do this stuff. That's how you represent the culture. It's how you bring it into the world and just get to celebrate it. And it was so freaking enjoyable. I can't wait to go back to the theater and see it again. And yes, there are 2 post-credit scenes, so make sure you stay for both of them. One after the animated credits, one at the end of the credits. And I will be talking about those. I'm definitely going to try to do a little bit of a spoiler review. I'm just not sure when I'll get a chance to do it, but I want to hit it because there is stuff we need to talk about. I can't wait to do it, man. But across the board, everything here, everybody involved, just it was amazing. It was one of those things where, like, I'm a very outward fan, and I read the room. If it's a large comic book crowd, you're going to get a lot of cheering and interactivity. Tonight's crowd wasn't there. It was a little mixed, so I kept it mostly reserved. But when the movie ended, I immediately just burst into the claps, man. I got about 2-3 in, and the whole place just erupted. Like, everybody tonight had a freaking good time, and I hope you guys go out to the theater and have a good time, too. But now, I want to know what you're thinking. If you haven't seen the movie, are you going to go out to the theater? You going to wait for it to hit Disney Plus 45 days after, I believe? It's the first time they're doing that. Is this something you're interested in? Is it one you really aren't? Maybe you weren't, but after listening to me for 20 plus minutes talking about how much I loved it, maybe now you're in. I want to know where you're at if you haven't seen it. And if you've gone out tonight and you've seen the movie, how'd it hit for you, man? Where does it fall in the Marvel ranking world for you? Like I said, I don't know where exactly, but it would definitely be up near the top. This thing was... Woo, man, and like what'd you think of Simu Liu? What'd you think of the characters, the world building, everything that was going on in the movie, the Asian culture and representation and martial arts styles? How did that stuff hit for you? If you come from that community, how did this movie hit for you? Are you going to embrace it the way we saw Black Panther be embraced? Are you going to be like, dude, I have been waiting so long for this. If you are that person, I want to know about it, man. So everything you got. I don't think we're going to get too many bad or indifference on this one, but hey, everything's welcome as long as you keep it respectful, keep it spoiler-free. Good, bad, indifferent on Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings goes down below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with C-Man anytime. We're talking movies, TV, trailer reactions. You want to be here for the spoiler content, maybe the post-credit breakdowns, anything I got going on, you want to come show a little love support, well then hey, join C-Maniac Nation. It's an awesome little community. We have a ton of fun over here, and it's really easy to join. All you got to do is jump over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts, and until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema, sit down. I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.